Thank you, Thom, for your generous wisdoms.
Oh,
Always
so fun.
appreciated. I'm not sure if this is related to the last question, but love your perspective and the Vedic perspective on dreams and dreaming.
Well, dreams aren't dreams. What I mean by that is the thing that we call dreams could be any one of a number of phenomena. And so let's look at nighttime events. And generally, our dreams are in the nighttime. Although I did hear one Aussie guy saying to some other Aussie guy on the corner over here this day, he says, I think we can go across, the street without waiting for the green walking man. And the other one looks at him and goes, now, mate, you're dreaming. You're dreaming. Yeah, there's one use of the word dream. Generally speaking, when we talk about a dream, it's during an eyes closed horizontal. We're either having a nap in the afternoon or we're doing the big long thing at night. And when we have our eyes closed and we're horizontal, generally speaking, then there's a number of events that can occur, and some of them, and we don't use, typically in neuroscience, we don't use the word dreaming. We call it REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. In rapid eye movement sleep, there are various neurological phenomena that are occurring. When we look at the EEG that occurs, the electroencephalography that occurs during a dream, the electrical impulses that are measurable, it's very fascinating, very, very fascinating. And the eyeballs move up and down behind the eyelids at rapid pace. And the reason they're doing that is because during your dream, during your dreaming state, the REM sleep, the body is throwing off stresses because you're resting quite deeply. And the stresses are being thrown off, and the process of unstressing, lying down, provokes the brain a little bit. And when the brain gets provoked, it wants you to wake up. But your brain has another agenda, which is to keep you asleep. And so your brain doesn't want you to wake up. These impulses of the release of information from a backlog of events, stresses that have occurred. The release of the information is organized into a component of a story, and your brain will create a story. That's what a dream is. And these stories happen at high speed. We don't think they're happening at high speed because our brain arranges it so they appear to be happening at regular speed, like we're in the room right now. But they're actually happening at high speed. And there is such a thing as a screen of consciousness, like a movie screen. And you're watching this story, but it's moving fast. You don't think it's moving fast. It's made to look like it's moving at normal speed, but in fact, it's moving very fast. And the eyes go into rapid eye movement because you're trying to watch all the components of the dream. The thing went over there, and the person said this, and the person said like that. And the eyes are moving all around trying to watch it all at high speed. The reason that that kind of dream is created is to keep you asleep while you're unstressing. Your body wants to unstress, but your brain also wants you to stay sleeping. And so to keep you from waking up, it turns it into a story. Now, interestingly, though this sounds like very modern science, the first person to identify this and to demonstrate the truth of it is good old Sigmund Freud. And he was able to demonstrate the truth of this. We've all had an experience sometime in our life where some provocation was coming from the outside, some sound, something was coming from the outside, and you were asleep, and you began dreaming something that was consistent with the sound. And so the example that Freud gives is that somebody is on the neighboring rooftop to the home that you live in, and they're hammering slates down onto the roof. Bang, 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 like that. And your mind doesn't want to hear that sound to wake you up. And so it invents a story. It's my friend knocking on the door. Bang, bang, bang. My friend has come to take me fishing. And bang, 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 they're knocking on the door. Why is my friend knocking so loudly? And so there's this kind of like invention of a story to explain the provocation. The same thing happens in rapid eye movement sleep, where on stressing, it provokes the brain. Our brain doesn't want us to wake up. And so it invents a story that connects this to this to this to this. And in rapid eye movement sleep, in these kinds of dreams, there's always disjointed is the nature of it. It's very strange. I was in one room talking to somebody, and then I turned and I looked through the door, and when I looked around, I wasn't in that room anymore, and it wasn't the same person I thought it was somebody else. And there's also a characteristic of futility. I'm trying to get something done, and I can't quite get the thing done. And I keep getting distracted, and I'm trying to get the thing done, but I can't quite get it done. And meanwhile, if you're in a sleep lab, your eyes are doing this, flapping around and behind the eyelids, looking at all the elements of the story. The other fascinating thing is our guess about how long we were dreaming for. People say, I was dreaming all night. For hours, I was dreaming that same dream. The maximum time a dream lasts is maximum 5 minutes. Usually more like 30 seconds to 2 or 3 minutes at the most. And then it's over. But it feels like a long time because your brain has slowed it all down and you don't realize that you've been watching a movie that was going at high speed. So it feels like ages. That's REM sleep. It's not the only kind of nighttime cognition that may occur. So there are other things that are not REM sleep, and we know this in neuroscience because we use a thing called an electrooculogram, EOC. It's a silver chloride electrode that's glued near the eye. And then you put the EEG cap on the person and you let them fall asleep and you hope they're going to start dreaming. And the EEG will tell you if a person is waking inside and starting to experience something, and the EOC will tell you if rapid eye movement's going on or not. If the EEG is saying this person is having a conscious, lucid experience, but there's no rapid eye movement, then they're having what we call a nighttime cognition. And nighttime cognitions are not accompanied by rapid eye movement. Nighttime cognitions are people experiencing some deep inner truth. And one of the reasons, the Vedic explanation for this, is that every time you're about to change consciousness states, if you're moving from sleep to dream, from dream back to sleep, from dream to waking, or from sleep to waking, and especially if you're moving from waking state into the sleep state, whenever there's a transition between two states of consciousness, there's a junction point. And that junction point is the transcendental field. It may only last for a second, but you have to pass through the same place that you dive into in the depth of meditation. You have to pass through that zone, that junction point, before you can get to the next consciousness state. On the approach to that, as you're moving from one state of consciousness to the next, there can be cognitions. And a cognition is your mind putting everything into perspective. And there are these aha moments. And they may also be accompanied by rather vivid or even lucid experiences that you're having. And if you're lucky enough to be in a sleep lab while this is going on, the scientists will look at you and go, interesting, no rapid eye movement. This is not unstressing. This is cognition occurring. Now, the importance of remembering it is overrated. People will often say, something happened in the night. It was amazing. I wish I could remember it. And my answer is, it's not important to remember it. There's been a consciousness upgrade. Your consciousness has been made more replete, more complete. You knowing exactly how and in what way, you don't need to know that in order for it to be true. It's analogous to the way that you get up in the morning and you have your shower. If you're a good Aussie, you have a shower in the morning, right? In some countries, they don't do that. I know you can't believe it, but they don't. So you get up in the morning, you have your shower, and then you're feeling really good all day. You're feeling good whether or not you go, I had a shower this morning. I had a shower this morning, I'm fresh. I had a shower this morning, I'm fresh. I had a shower. How I got, what it is that made me fresh and all. You just had a shower, that's all. And you can forget about the shower. You're still going to be fresh all day. We don't need to remember or know what the download and the upgrade were in order to get the benefit from it. It may have caused a cognition to occur, and if so, the deed is done. Your mind and your brain have been upgraded, and you're just going to find that over the next few days, you seem to have a greater wisdom. You seem to have a greater knowingness. You seem to have a greater equanimity in the face of change and all of that, because something happened in the night. You get to have a little trace of it, but trying to remember it. Remembering it doesn't make it better, and not remembering it doesn't deplete it in any way. It was a thing that happened. And so we're indoctrinated about this memory thing. Oh, I can't remember. You say to somebody, can you remember the first time you spoke to your parents? You'd be like, oh, that's a really good question. Let me think. No, I can't remember it. How sad is that? Here I am, able to talk eloquently, and I can't remember the first time I did it. How sad is that? It's not sad. It doesn't matter. Maybe you went, instead of saying wah wah, you said water. Ah wah wah wah. And then one day you said, I want water. And your parents went, did you hear that? And you can't remember it. How sad. Come on, get over it. You ended up turning into an articulate human being who doesn't say ah wah 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 anymore. Or if you do, get some help. But, the fact that you can't remember it doesn't take it away from you. The fact that you can't remember it doesn't change the fact of the benefit that you get from it. And we're getting these cognitions all the time. Now, as meditation progresses, because you go down deep and you touch that transcendental unified field consciousness with great regularity every morning, every evening, every morning, every evening, like that, systematic, regular, then what happens is your brain begins to identify in the night, here's a junction point coming up. I'm finishing with the waking state and I'm moving into sleep, and suddenly everything starts going unbounded for a moment. And then that ends, and then sleep comes. And then you're moving from sleep into dreaming. You're about to cross the threshold into dreaming, but you have to pass through the unboundedness again. And then cognitions can occur. And then dreaming comes. You end the dream and you're about to cross the threshold back into sleep, and there's another junction point and another cognition may occur. And then, of course, the final one, which is moving from sleep back into waking. You become faintly aware. If you've traveled and you're in a new place, you might be faintly aware and think, hang on, Where am I? It's a beautiful moment where you're thinking, what is this place? And you have to allow it to assemble itself. You've all been through that at various points, especially when traveling. What is this place? Where am I? Where did I park my body? Oh, I can see this. I can see that. Oh my God, I'm in an airplane. Or whatever, wherever it turns out you were. And so then crossing these thresholds, as your consciousness becomes more and more cognizant of opportunities to experience unboundedness, it's going to exploit those at those thresholds. And there are many of them. Sleep, waking to sleep transition, sleep to dreaming transition, dreaming back to sleep transition, and sleep from waking transition. Crossing those thresholds, and gradually those thresholds open up. They open up and get fatter, and you start having larger and larger cognition time in the night. And a state comes where that's all that's going on. The curtains have parted, and you're experiencing the unboundedness from one junction point to the next. The curtain of sleep is narrow. The curtain of dreaming, very narrow. And you start to reveal what's behind the curtains of waking, dreaming, and sleeping. Between the curtains are the junction points. There's the transcendental field. What if you move the curtains aside entirely? You experience that vast unboundedness all the time. And these curtains are no longer able to obscure it. You're just experiencing that all the time. That's enlightenment. So nighttime cognitions tend to increase in meditators, and REM sleep tends to decrease in meditators. This is also a very interesting thing. People who practice Vedic meditation regularly have shorter episodic REM sleep. And progressively, over a period of years and even decades, it's eliminated. There's no more REM sleep. So meditators measure to like 15-year meditator, lying on the bed at the sleep clinic with the electrooculagram on, and their bodies resting incredibly deeply, no REM all night. And in a regular person, that would be a problem because it means there's no release. But the reason why there's no release is there's no backlog. You've depleted the inventory of stress. There's no accumulated stress left. But that person can still report having had experiences in the night. They can report, I was having cognitions. I can't really remember exactly what they were, but it's something to do with this, something to do with an owl, something to do with whatever. I was having some cognitions. But, you might call it dreaming, but unless there was rapid eye movement, it wasn't dreaming. It's also fascinating.